cooking 4 different things. But most importantly, I think we're going to really talk about the art of grilling and kind of some basics about grilling, whether you're cooking on a wood pellet grill. I'm cooking on my Traeger, and they just sent me a new t-shirt. I'm really into it. Um, or if you're cooking on charcoal or wood or gas, there are some things that we can translate, some do's and don'ts between all of those. And then we're also going to learn about direct heat versus indirect heat when you're grilling, because that's a super important concept. And I think sometimes people don't understand that when you're grilling, you can have different temperatures around the grill, right? It's not just you throw it on and you guess. And so, yay, Vicki, I'm glad you're looking forward to today. I really was as well. So here's what it's going to look like today. Because of the timing of and temperature for cooking these foods, we're going to do the Santa Maria tri-tip. We're doing the Mexican street corn, really simple chicken breasts, and we are doing burgers, lamb burgers, which can be any burgers. In the original recipe I shared with you, they're lamb and pork. Today I'm doing lamb and ground beef together. So in order to pull them all off, I kind of timed them to work in a certain order. So I already put the tri-tip on to smoke for 1 hour, and I'm going to take that off right now so that we can talk more about things. And I'm going to turn up the grill to get it ready for the next recipe. So I just need to pull this off, and then we'll kind of start talking through each one and get going. Also, if you have questions, for those of you who are here live, you know, the best part about joining live, besides we have fun, is that you can ask those questions as we go and I'll answer them, right? So if there's anything that you really need to know today about grilling, don't hesitate to ask. I always say somebody else probably has the same question, okay? So let's get this tri-tip off the grill. It's been on for an hour. Ooh, it's been smoking. Oh, it's gorgeous. And I'm going to move the camera down. Don't worry, when I'm cooking more, I'll be moving the camera down to table level. But the recipe is really great because it calls for, it's a very simple recipe too. It calls for soy sauce. And today I actually used coconut aminos because that's what I had. Brown sugar, molasses, and some yummy spices. It called for fresh ginger. I didn't have fresh ginger. I just used dried ginger, some chili powder, some garlic, and you marinate it for about an hour or two before it goes on the grill. Then you smoke it for an hour, and you take it off and you put it right back in this marinade and let it sit while we turn up the grill to finish cooking it, okay? So we're gonna let that sit and hang out. I'm gonna crank up the grill, and while we're waiting for it to come to temperature, it's gonna give us an opportunity to talk about grilling temperatures and direct versus indirect heat, okay? I'm also going to cover this since I'm outside. I want to just kind of keep it out of the way of bugs. I got myself some new foil. So let me just cover this. And anybody who's here with me today, if you have a grill at home and you want to tell me what kind of a grill you're working with, I'm happy to address questions, whether it's gas, charcoal, anything like that, so we can be more specific for you, okay? I'm going to turn this to 350 because what we're going to do the chicken and the corn at 350, and we'll talk about why I'm doing them at 350. And then we'll finish the tri-tip at 450, and then I'm going to turn it back down and we're going to do the burgers. So that's the order of how we're going to cook today, okay? Let's see, Vicky's working with a gas grill. Okay, good to know. I had a gas grill forever until I started working with Traeger. And if you've taken a class from me before, you've probably heard me discuss why I kind of fell in love with Traeger grills. A friend of mine called me, a very old friend of mine, not in age, she's the same age as me. We went to high school together. He called me and said, "Oh my gosh, you have to use a Traeger." And I said, "What's a Traeger?" And he said, "You're crazy, but I'll introduce you to my friend who runs Traeger and you can see." And out of the blue, Jeremy, who's the CEO of Traeger, was coming to my work the next week to Williams-Sonoma in San Francisco, and I was the culinary director there. So I met him, and it was the first time I got to experience a Traeger, which was so funny that it was going to happen whether I knew it or not, right? So I learned about wood pellet grilling. And we'll start with this, and then we'll talk about gas and charcoal because it matters in terms of temperature. So the thing that's really interesting about wood pellet grilling is that it's like you get the benefits of cooking over a wood fire, but with the benefits of electricity to run it and turn it into more of a convection oven. So there are these little wood pellets, and you can get them in hickory and oak and cherry, mesquite, all these different types of wood, right? So you put the wood pellets in the hopper, and then they're fed through this metal tube where at the bottom of the grill there's an igniter. It's a little fire pot, right? So we have an igniter on the grill that's electric. It lights the fire for you, and then the air circulates like a convection oven. So you're getting the benefits of all of that flavor from wood while having the convenience of being able to plug something in and you're not having to start the fire yourself, right? So it's kind of an amazing invention. And the second I tried it, I fell in love with the flavor of the food because I don't smoke a lot of food. This got smoked today, the tri-tip did, but I tend to not smoke my food. I use this like I use an oven or a grill or a cooktop. And what you get from the wood being your fuel source is just another layer of flavor. So not everything tastes smoky, and we'll talk about that today. Things smoke on a Traeger between like 180 and 220, but once you turn it up after that, it's not in its smoking phase anymore. You're just cooking, okay? So that's one thing to understand between that. And I'm going to get into temperature here because this is what's so different on any type of grill you have. One of the other reasons I fell in love with Traeger is because you can actually set the temperature that you want to cook at, and exactly like you would an oven, and it can hold at that temperature. So you know what temperature you're working with. Whereas if you're on a gas grill or a typical charcoal grill, you have no idea. Like the little thing on here might tell you, but every time you open and close the lid, that's changing so dramatically. So to have an actual gauge of what temperature I should be cooking at, and also like when somebody tells you medium high, what does that even mean? Right? So today I'm going to be talking about temperature a lot because we have the ability to control it here. And I'll speak to high and medium high and kind of what I say high on here is 450 degrees, medium high is 400, and then medium is 350, around there. So if you're translating this to another type of grill, it's just important to understand the temperature piece. The other thing about grilling that is different than it's actually, I talk about this with all kinds of cooking, is that the times listed on recipes are simply meant for guides so that you have an idea of something's supposed to take 10 minutes or 30 minutes. The most important thing that matters when you're cooking, especially meat, is the internal temperature of the meat, right? So every cut of meat is different and unique, and every cut is going to cook a little differently than its counterpart, right? So when I'm giving you time approximations, you're going to notice that I also want you looking visually for how things are, and I want you checking the internal temperature of things because that's the only real way to tell if something is done, okay? So let's see, what else do I want to tell you about before we do a little bit more of the cooking? Let's talk about the idea of gas versus charcoal versus wood pellet, and also direct versus indirect heat. So, and if I'm going too quickly, you can ask me to slow down. Chris, you usually use a gas grill. And one day you can own a Traeger. If you ever want to get a Traeger, send me a DM and I'll have a little surprise for you, a little discount, okay? Actually, it's a really generous discount for any of you who take this class. Oh, and before I forget, did you get the email about ButcherBox that they'll give you $20 off an order from ButcherBox for any of you who signed up for the class today? The code, I believe, is Amanda20, and it's all just one word. ButcherBox is this amazing company where you can order meat, seafood, chicken, and it's delivered to your doorstep in a very sustainable, eco-friendly way, packaging wise. I was very impressed, but the quality of their meats and seafood are fantastic, and so they were generous enough to send me a bunch of things to sample before this class so that I could talk about it and offer you all $20 off your order. But it's kind of amazing because if you don't live near a place where you can access great meat, you can have it shipped right to your doorstep. I also love the convenience of it, that you're not wasting. You're not going to the store and being like, oh yeah, maybe I need beef, maybe I need chicken. You can kind of plan ahead and have larger amounts sent to you if you want larger amounts. But they sent me, for example, they sent me all of the chicken breasts that I'm using today. And it came in a 3-pack, and I think it's about 5 pounds in total, which was a really great size for me. but we have been trying everything. We've got racks of ribs, we've got steak, we've got the ground beef and ground buffalo. Actually, they sent me 4 burgers, so it's just been an amazing service. So Amanda 20 is the code. Okay, all right. So back to direct and indirect heat. So this is something you can think about in typical cooking too. Okay, and I'll break it down when you're working in a kitchen versus working with a grill. But direct heat is when you're cooking at a high temperature close to the heat source, right? So on a Traeger, I'm opening it for just a second. It would be on this lower rack, right? I don't have the upper rack in right now. And in most cases, when there's a flame at the bottom of your grill, the hottest surface is closer to that flame. With a Traeger, we're kind of lucky because since the heat circulates, the top part is warmer, is hotter than most areas. So if you need to cook multiple things and you can put them up there, they're still going to cook really well. But I want to talk about indirect heat versus direct because people get confused with searing things. And then, like, let's say you take a burger and you sear it on both sides, right? You do like 2 minutes per side. But if you left it over that high heat, it's going to cook too much. What you do is you get that beautiful crust on it, and then you move it to another place on the grill at a lower temperature to finish cooking in the middle, right? So that's something that you can do with gas. It's something you can do with charcoal. Like a lot of recipes, when you're cooking on a charcoal or wood grill, tell you to start a fire on one side or start it in the middle and you get it all going, and then you push the coals to one side so it's hotter over there than on this side where there's not a direct heat source, right? So there are all kinds of ways you can create direct and indirect heat. I'm kind of cheating on a Traeger because you don't have to build the fire any certain way. And like I said, this actually keeps things more consistent between the top and the bottom. But I could still, if I wanted to, move things up to finish things off. So it's just something to think about in accordance to the type of grill you have. On a gas grill, the best thing would be to turn off one of the burners, right? So, or turn one of the burners down to low. So if it's a typical 1, 2, 3 burners across, you would just turn one of them off, or you sear and then you just turn it down, right? You turn the whole thing down and you finish cooking on a much lower heat. I'm trying to think what else I want to share with you about that piece, but you'll hear a lot of cookbooks, especially talk about direct and indirect heat. In fact, I wrote a grilling book, or I contributed to a grilling book for Williams-Sonoma, and the wording is really specific, like cook 2 minutes on each side over direct heat, and then you lower the temperature and cook it over indirect heat, or you move it to a different part of the grill and cook it over indirect heat to finish. So you'll hear me talk about that probably more than once today, okay? All right, I hope everybody's with me. And if you're not watching live, I'm going to give everybody just a minute to kind of regroup before I start talking about the chicken and the corn. What I'm doing is we're going to do the chicken and the corn together. And then when those come off, I'm going to put the tri-tip back on to finish it. So we'll have plenty of time to talk about the tri-tip, and then we'll close with the burgers, okay? Because the burgers are, I already mixed the meat together for us with the herbs. I just want to talk more about making burgers on a grill and not overcooking them. And the importance of not cutting into your food when you're cooking on the grill. If you take away one thing today, I think that's what I'm going to want. If you take away 2 things today, internal temperature is how you tell when something's done, right? So it's not by time, it's by temperature. And you have to let your meat rest a little bit before you start poking and slicing it. The second you do that, you lose all of the juice. And so people always ask me to teach their husbands how to grill, which is not what I'm in the business of doing. I like to teach anyone how to grill, right? I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but everybody tends to do it. What you do is you open the grill and you say, is it done? And you kind of stick your head towards it. You're letting all the heat escape. You might poke it, prod it, slice it a little to check a piece. When you do that, all of the juice goes out the window. So what you need to do is when you take your meat off the grill, it's okay to check it with an instant read thermometer and see how it's going and just take it out quickly, right? That's not like a big, it's not like cutting the whole thing open. But the best way to let steak and chicken and all your meats get really juicy is to take it off the grill about 5 degrees before it's supposed to finish. So like say we want your chicken at 165, you pull it off at 160, put it on a cutting board, and you let it rest. You can tent it with foil if you like. Let it rest for 5 to 10 minutes. And what's going to happen is all of the juice in the meat is going to redistribute evenly through it, instead of just all pouring out onto your counter. So when you slice it, of course, some juice will come out, but you'll have much juicier chicken, especially with lean cuts when you do this. It's so frustrating when you spend good money on a cut and then you cut it open and all of the juice goes flying out and your food is really dry. So you'll hear me talking about that a lot today, okay? All right, this is at 349 degrees. I think that's pretty exacting. Let's talk about the chicken and let's talk about the Mexican street corn. I'm going to get the chicken on the grill and the street corn on the grill, and then I'm going to talk about why I'm cooking both of these things at 350 degrees. The chicken recipe actually says 450, and I think that that is actually a typo. I learned on my first day on the job at Traeger that the best tasting boneless, skinless chicken breast is cooked at 350 degrees, and it usually takes somewhere between 25 and 30 minutes, okay? The one thing I want you to understand about chicken like this too, especially if you're working over a gas flame where there are a lot of flare-ups because there's nothing coming between the flame and your food, putting something sugary on your food at the very beginning will cause it to flame up and smoke. Sugar burns very easily. So have you ever made barbecue chicken or somebody else that you know makes barbecue chicken and they bring it in, they're like, I don't know what happened. It's like pitch black, right? It's because the sugar can catch on fire and very easily, and it just gets burnt. We're not going for that. Luckily with Traeger, there is a flat piece of metal here, a sheet of metal between the fire pot and the grill. So the heat is circulating evenly, but the food can't drop down into the flame and cause these big flare-ups. So it's more forgiving than if you're working on gas or charcoal or any direct flame heat source, okay? So I could cheat, and the recipe as it's written is saying put some of the barbecue sauce on it before you start cooking, but I'm going to show you how to cook the chicken and then sauce it at the last minute. So this is how I like to do any kind of chicken on the grill. If you've marinated it in something, that's great. You just kind of pat off the marinade before it goes on the grill. Or if you put a rub on it, I put a little bit of Traeger rub on it today for flavor as I'm grilling it, and then it's going to get more flavor from the sauce, right? So super important and fun to understand that you can cook chicken pretty plainly and you sauce it at the end so the sauce doesn't burn and ruin the chicken. And then with the Mexican street corn, all I'm doing, I've got it right here. I've got olive oil and salt on it. I'm going to put these pieces directly on the grill. I cut them into thirds so they're fun little bite-sized pieces. And I'm going to grill them without any of the sauce on them. When they come off the grill, I'm going to dip them in the yummy, yummy sauce and sprinkle them with the cotija cheese that makes it like Mexican street corn. So I've got my chicken here. Let me show you. Okay, I've got my chicken with my rub on it, and I've got these corn pieces, and I'm going to open the grill and get them going. Now, I use my hands a lot because, like I said, you're going to see I'm not working over a direct flame, so I can do that. But I'm just going to get these right on. And unlike other grills, you always cook with the grill lid down on a Traeger. Okay, I'm going to get these chicken breasts on, and we'll have it all on there at once. That one needs a little more coating. These are really thick chicken breasts, so we're going to see how long they take. They need a little bit of space in between them, okay? Now, here's the other thing I want to talk about is cross-contamination with germs and bacteria from cooking with meats and things like that. I'm being really careful. I have some sanitation, some little wet ones out here for my hands too, because I'm not near a sink. So you'll see me probably being extra cautious. I normally am anyhow when I'm cooking for anyone, including myself. But I'm putting these tongs over there so I remember that the tongs for the raw chicken, and they're not to be used with the steak, okay? So, all right. So what time is it? I should probably set a timer because I tend to forget a lot. I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes. And we'll talk about the street corn some too. So let's dig into that one first because it's a really simple recipe. And I made it recently. It's on the Traeger website as well, but it's in your recipe packet that we sent you. And it's a recipe from Chef Timothy Hollingsworth, who is an outstanding chef out of Los Angeles. If you haven't visited Otium, it's his restaurant in downtown LA. It's so delicious. But the thing I love is that it's like really beautifully prepared food, but in a setting where you feel like you can be comfortable and relax. It's not one of those settings where you feel uptight and stuffy. It's this beautiful, huge space downtown next to the museum, whose name is escaping me right now. But the thing about Tim is that he can make anything. And he did this great menu for Traeger, for an online Traeger class. And now that I think about it, did he do his tri-tip with it? He might have. But I just loved both of these recipes so much. And I made the Mexican street corn about a month ago. We cooked lunch for over 100 volunteers at a playground build. And it was so much fun, but the Mexican street corn was the runaway hit. We made tacos, and those were great. And I really enjoyed making them too. But the corn, I think, was maybe surprising to some people, and they just kept coming back for more. And my son, my sweet son, kept giving everybody seconds and thirds before everybody had eaten. And I was like, oh my goodness, we're going to run out. So this is a great recipe. I love grilling vegetables on the Traeger, and it's because it's so simple. So say you just want to grill corn and not do anything with it except maybe put some butter on it at the end. You can do that as well. But all I've done today is I took corn that was on the cob and I cut it into little pieces. It's kind of like picnic style, you know, so you can grab it like that and eat it, and you wouldn't need anything to eat it off the cob. I picture people eating around somewhere outside where they don't have the ability to have all of the fancy fuss of dishes and corn holders and all of that. So olive oil and salt is what I put on here to cook it. But you can cook it for 10 minutes. If it's great corn, that's probably all it needs. But what you'll see is that sometimes it just takes a little longer, 20 to 30 minutes. And especially if you're cooking something else and you're kind of like opening and closing the grill a bit. So the recipe says cook it for 10 minutes. I would cook it for 10 minutes if it's really fresh sweet corn. I eat raw corn all the time. This just gives it an extra layer of flavor and kind of caramelizes the corn a little bit, brings out the sweetness of it. So I'm going to cook it a little bit longer than they say, but we'll check it in about 10 minutes. And I'll probably turn it too, because I think it looks so pretty when it's got some color on it. Then the thing I love about this recipe as well is that you can prep everything before you start cooking it and before you serve it. So this is the sauce, the coating that goes on it. And then you take cotija cheese and you sprinkle that all over the corn as well. So this is a huge, messy endeavor, and it's what's so fun about it. So yeah. In this street corn recipe, I have put mayonnaise, and then you can use, most recipes call for crema, which is like a Mexican version of sour cream. And I did not use crema today. They didn't have any at the store I went to, so I just used a little bit of sour cream. If you wanted to use Greek yogurt, you could. It just totally depends on how rich you want things to taste. But you could certainly use Greek yogurt, and it would be a really fun alternative, a little bit lighter than sour cream. Then I've got the juice of a lime. I have some tahini, and I wanted to show you this seasoning. If you've never used it before, it's just like, you're going to realize they sell it everywhere. They sell it in like every store I've ever been to. I should have brought my glasses out. You can always find it at Latin markets as well, but all it is chili peppers with a lot of sea salt in it already, citric acid, so that's kind of the lime flavor, and it's got some actual lime juice in it as well. So it's like chili lime seasoning for things. It's delicious on chicken, shrimp, steak, anything, but it is really good in this Mexican street corn. So I'm using this today as my seasoning. It makes it so easy as well, right? And then I have the cotija cheese, which comes in a block. And the block I bought today was a round block, and it's very firm. It looks like feta, if you're familiar with feta. And you just break it up so that you can sprinkle it on, right? So these are kind of big chunks still. And I'll just build a couple with and without it for you so you can see. But it is really It's really salty, but the texture is similar to feta. It's less pungent. It's just going to add, it kind of melts in your mouth after the fact, which I like. So it's firm, but then kind of just dissolves easily and gives it this salty tang that's going to be delicious with everything else. I also forgot I added cilantro to this, and the recipe calls for half a cup, which is a lot. I love it when you do that. It's like really green on the outside of the corn. I didn't put that much in here because I wanted to remember to tell you that if you don't like cilantro, you don't have to use it. You could use another herb, or you could just skip it altogether. I think chives would be really delicious in it, like finely chopped chives, but you could go any direction you want, okay? I see a comment. Oh, hi, Helena or Helena. Corn, eggs, potatoes. It's a staple. I love it. Even fruit. Oh my gosh, that's such a great point. It is so good on like melon, watermelon, cantaloupe. It's absolutely delicious. I can see why you do that. It's really good. So that's the corn. I'm going to grab another set of tongs. These are going to be my corn tongs. Actually, I want some longer ones. These I have not used yet. I'm just going to take a look. Oh yeah, it's getting a little color, so I'm going to turn it, but shut that grill lid quickly so I don't let all the heat out. Oh, yummy. Okay, back down it goes because I don't want to affect the temperature of the chicken that much. The other thing, I'm not trying to be an advertisement for Traeger, but I do work for them. So this could sound sponsored because I love it so much. But the thing I like too is that you see the actual temperature that it drops to. So I joke because I'm always saying to my kids, close the lid, right? Or close the oven. And they're like, why? It's not that big of a deal. Here you see how quickly it drops. So it dropped down to 320, which isn't bad, but it's already back up to 335. And that's one of the things that's so amazing about the Traeger is that it recovers its temperature really quickly. So it's very consistent. It's better and faster than most ovens that I've seen. So, and again, on most ovens indoors, you can't see what happens or how much the temperature drops by, right? So I end up using this like an oven a lot of the time, and I do baking on it. I do all my veggie roasting on here because it's so much more accurate and it tastes so much better. That's all there is to it. So that's the scoop on that. Now for the chicken. Let's talk about the chicken because I put a recipe in for the sauce. I'm used to people having lots of questions, and I don't see any right now, and I know it's a small group live here. You'd like to learn how to bake using a Traeger. It is so easy because all you do is you set the temperature like you'd set your oven temperature, and you put it in right on the, like you use regular loaf pans, cake pans. I use my baking sheets on here all the time, and the time might be a little bit different. It's hard to say. Depends a lot on where you live and all of those other factors. But you just use it like an oven. It's incredible. And you just pretend that's an oven rack. So I have a lot of sweet dessert recipes on Traeger's website for you. I have this peanut butter chocolate pie that's insanely delicious where I cook the crust on here. I have ginger molasses cookies, anything chocolate chippy, but also like stone fruit desserts, berry desserts. All of those things taste amazing when they're baked on the Traeger. In fact, I'm going to cook for a retreat next week for like 24 women. And we're cooking everything on Traegers, and I'll be doing stone fruit desserts for them on the Traeger. I'm really excited to show them how delicious it is. So that's fun. Yeah, it's really cool. And a lot of people just use them like ovens, right? Or if you don't have a second oven in your house and you need another source for baking, cooking, roasting, grilling, obviously, just use the Traeger. My friend had to remodel her kitchen. They moved into a house that was like a total fixer-upper. And she's like, oh, I just used the Traeger, like the oven, for so long. I stopped missing an oven. It was hilarious. And she's like, and the house never got too hot. So it's kind of handy, right? Okay, let's talk barbecue chicken. And what I want to talk about is the barbecue sauce. So if you are wanting to make this at some point, I'll talk you through it. I didn't make it today. I've been making it all the time, and this is one of my favorite recipes. This is actually a very old recipe based off a family recipe of mine, and it's really simple. So, first of all, there are so many different barbecue sauces out there, right? I think when most people think of barbecue sauce, they think sweet, sometimes brown sugar or molasses, right? So that sweet undertone. You taste tomato, you taste some chili powder, but now there are so many spicy options out there. There are so many delicious store-bought options, truly. But it's fun to make it yourself sometimes. And once you make it and you realize how simple it is, and it lasts for a few weeks in the fridge, it's just kind of a fun thing to have on hand because it adds so much flavor to whatever you're making. So just my suggestion. I'm making sure my timer's working. I don't want to burn the chicken that I'm talking about for all of you. So this recipe has a cup of ketchup, a cup of water, a little maple syrup. I'm constantly looking for ways to replace refined sugar with honey or maple syrup. It's just kind of a thing that I like. I'd rather consume maple syrup or honey than cane sugar. There are some recipes where I absolutely don't substitute cane sugar. It's just needed, right? But this is not one of them. Maple syrup's delicious in it. You could also use honey. I might use a little bit less. Well, that's why we call for 1 to 2 tablespoons, right? Because you can use as much or as little as you'd like. Then calls for Worcestershire sauce, apple cider vinegar. Celery seeds are like an old school ingredient, I feel like. You get that little bite, right? Chili powder, onion powder, and then I had a chipotle chili powder if you want a smoky flavor. You do not need to use it. I was just sent some chipotle chili powder, no joke, and started using it. And then I started putting it in everything because it really does create this depth of flavor that is missing from a lot of things. So if you haven't missed it, don't worry about it. If you don't have any, don't worry about it. But if you like the taste of chipotle and you have some on hand, give it a try. Oh yeah, dates work great. And anytime you're doing a sauce where you can blend it, right? You could always put this in the blender. Like I used to do a barbecue sauce with a lot of red onion in it, and so you just zap it after that if you want a smoother sauce, right? So the date trick would be amazing. So the best part about this recipe too is that you just put it all in a saucepan. And again, if I were making the sauce today, I would do it. I put my pan on the grill. I have all stainless steel cookware that the handles aren't plastic, so they're safe in an oven. And I treat this like an oven. So if it says your cookware is safe up to 450 degrees in the oven, it's safe up to 450 degrees in the Traeger. So you can cook things like that on the grill as well. The only difference would be that you put the pan on and you close the lid so that the heat keeps circulating, and then you check back and give it a stir from time to time. So you don't bring it up to a boil like you would on the stovetop and turn it down. You just kind of have to check on it from time to time. But I would say at 350, this would cook really well. And in general, it says you're supposed to bring it all to a boil, reduce the heat, and simmer for 10 to 25 minutes. I give a huge range there because it seems like sometimes people taste it and they immediately want more ketchup, or they want more maple syrup, or if you were using brown sugar, or you want more spice. And sometimes you might want more water because it turns out it's too spicy to start with, right? So I think it's really personal. It's a personal choice, like how thick you want your sauce to be. And all you're going to do by cooking it longer is you're intensifying the flavors because you're evaporating water. You're reducing the amount of liquid down, right? So if you start with this much sauce and you bring it down to here, the water is going to come out and you'll have stronger flavors. If you have this much water and you just bring it down to here, it'll be thinner, more like, you just brush a really small amount on things. You could even drizzle it over things. It's totally to your taste. So I have my barbecue sauce out here today because I want to show you that I'm just going to sauce everything at the last minute. And my friends, I have a bristle brush, which I love these. Who was I talking to about? Oh, if you follow me on Instagram, I had a really fun session with my friend Nicole Papantonio. It's hard for me to say her last name. She is the director. She's a culinary director at Good Housekeeping magazine. So she oversees all of the tests of their equipment. It's so fascinating, her job to me, like how she tests things, because they rate things for people, right? It's not like when I was testing at Williams Sonoma and we're saying, oh yeah, buy this or don't buy that. We think people would love it or not. They have to really make sure it works and rate things. So she is very exacting. And she was saying she likes silicone brushes because you can throw them in the dishwasher so quickly. Ooh, that's to check on my chicken and corn. I'm going to set the timer again so I don't overcook the chicken. But for some reason, I like the bristle brushes still because sauce sticks to them really well. Whereas on silicone, it's almost like they're so nonstick that it doesn't, when you go to scoop up the sauce and brush it on, it's harder for me to get any on it. So it's just a personal preference. Yes, you need to wash these carefully. You can wash them in the dishwasher as well. And if you're working with, like if you're brushing raw chicken with it, of course, you want to be careful not to use it on anything else after you've cooked the chicken. So, but that's what I use. And this is just like, this is so me. This is actually a paintbrush. Sometimes I just buy paintbrushes at the store and I use them like this, but they sell really great boarhead bristle ones. You can get them practically anywhere now online, but they always had them at Williams Sonoma in a couple different sizes, and they have them in any great kitchenware shop. So there you have it. Okay, I'm gonna check the chicken. I'm gonna give it a flip. Oh, it looks good. And I'm gonna teach you a fun fact. And then let's look at the corn. I just did what I said I wasn't going to do. I used the tongs for the chicken on the corn. Do as I say, not as I do. I wasn't thinking. But I am going to take the corn off and we're going to dunk it in this amazing sauce, okay? And then the chicken, we'll check it in about 10 minutes, yep, to see what the internal temperature is. Here's another fun fact. If you're cooking on a Traeger, because the heat circulates all the way around, you don't have to turn your burgers or your chicken. I flip them because I like the look of consistent grill marks on both sides, but it's getting as much heat from the top as the bottom. Isn't that crazy? So it's kind of a game changer if you don't want to babysit your food. And they do have a built-in instant read thermometer, so I could leave that thermometer in and walk away, and the app would tell me when the chicken's done. Isn't that crazy? But I like doing it the old-fashioned way for some reason, and I love showing you all the old-fashioned way and how to use an instant read thermometer to see if your food is done or not, okay? So let's get this steak out of the way and I'm going to check my pellets. They're still looking good. Yep, there's still enough in there. I think I'll move this over here and so we can get our corn dressed. That sounds funny, to get our corn dressed, but we will be getting our corn dressed. Okay, so I also think I want to get something to put the little corn pieces in. So do you want to take about a 2-minute break? And I'm going to run and get that, and I'll be right back. I'm just going to get some little containers to put it in so that it's not rolling around on the cutting board too much, okay? I'll be right back. This is where I really wish I could play music for you all. I'm back. Okay, there's another Traeger behind me. It's so funny. I've got more Traegers than most people have. I don't know what. I have a lot of Traegers around here. Okay, let me get a little container to put these on so that they're not rolling around after I dip them in the amazing sauce and sprinkle them with cheese. So my son, his dad, and my son's friend are all coming over, and they all know that there's this food. And so the best part about teaching at home is they get to take all the leftovers. It's so fun to feed people. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the corn off, and then I will move the camera back down to the cutting board so you can see what I'm doing, okay? Let's take it. Oh, yummy. Those, yeah. Oh, this is going to be so delicious. Get that lid shut again quickly. It got down to 313. And now it's steadying out and going back up. Okay, let me get my stuff assembled here so I can show you everything we're doing. I've got my sauce. I've got the corn. I'm a lefty. I'm going to have to work left to right. And then I want to get this yummy cotija cheese so that I may sprinkle some on it. And let's just make a little assembly line here. Okay, I'm going to move the camera. Lori, hello, hello, hello. Okay, so here's the grilled corn. Here's the amazing sauce we're going to dip it in. And we're going to just like take it for a little spin. Of course, if you don't care about getting your hands dirty, you could get in there. I'm trying to be polite and do this without looking super scary to all of you. But you really want to make sure it's well coated, okay? And then let's move this down and we'll put the well coated pieces. Oh my gosh. This is meant to be messy, folks. There's no getting around it. But since the corn is still warm, oh, the sauce is going to set up on it and be delicious. And then, like I said, if you love cilantro, put a ton on there. Go for it. I don't think I even got to enjoy any at the party that we did or at the playground build because everybody ate it before I could try it. But it made me so happy that everyone loved it so much. I do a dip that's kind of a riff on this recipe. That's going to be in my new book. Okay, 2 more. Let's put them in and put them in for a swim. Okay, wow, this is going to be delicious. All right. So now typically for color, I would get weird and I would put more cilantro on it just to add to the vibe, right? But I'm going to take the cotija cheese and just break it up a little bit more because the big chunks won't stick to it. The other thing you could do, oh my gosh, let's do this, is you could roll it in the cotija on the bottom just to make sure it's coated kind of like this, right? So if you want to make sure each piece is really well coated, you could do that. Instead, I'm just going to sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. You could also break up all the cotija and put it in a bowl and then just kind of dip every piece in there and roll it around like I did with the crema mayo combination and lime juice. I'll leave a couple plain for my sweet people. No, I'm actually going for it. Sorry, they get it. They get what they get and they don't throw a fit, right? Oh, I'm afraid I'm going to have to taste it to tell you all what we think, because if you've never had it before, it's pretty spectacular. Yeah, I would definitely put more cilantro on it just for, just visually to make it a little bit more interesting, right? But I'll try a small piece and then I'll take it inside. You know why it's so good? The corn is so sweet when you grill it against the tanginess of the lime juice. And I use the sour cream, so it's a little tangy too. Oh my gosh. And you could totally put, hold on, let me have one more bite. It could use more tahini. So here's what you could do. I'll show you this too. This is pretty. Woo, 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 woo. Sprinkle away. Ta-da! Fun, right? Let me turn the camera down. Oh, you guys, this is like the best side dish ever. Perfect picnic food, barbecue food. If somebody needs you to bring something to a party and you can get fresh corn, this is what you want to bring. It's outstanding. This is probably one of my favorite side dishes of all time. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the kitchen so that it's not in our way while we bring out the chicken. But if any of you have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the question box while I get rid of this, okay? I'll be right back. I should take my extra piece of corn. You didn't see that. Back in a jiff. Okay, that is one of my favorite things I've ever made. That's all there is to it. It's absolutely delicious. I'm going to cover the crema because I have more to use. Which again, if you want to do like a Mexican street corn salad, you could grill the corn, just cut it off the cob, and then toss it in this sauce and sprinkle with the cotija. So delicious. I love those flavors, and I love this. This is not sponsored. Any questions? No? I've had a lot of water today. Hopefully that's a good thing. Okay, let's check the chicken. And what I'm going to do is take one off. I don't want to use those tongs. I'm going to try one of these. Okay, I want to test two pieces because I want to show you the difference in temperature because this one is really thick. This is a really thick piece of chicken, okay? This is still a really big piece of chicken, and I don't believe they're ready because I see a little pink. But the only way we're going to know, unless you're really good at doing this trick, right, with your fingers, is to insert it horizontally into the meat. It's at 136, and we're going for about 155, 160. This one's thinner, and it says 164. I can tell it might be 164 out here, right? But in the center, no, it's not that temperature. It needs about another 5 minutes at least. So back they go, and I'll be able to pull this one before the other three are just so dang thick. So back they go. That was the timer to check on them. That was amazing. Let's just set another timer while we wait. Okay, great. I'm going to give it 5 minutes, okay? So here's the scoop. We've got the corn already done. We've got the chicken almost done. In fact, in 5 minutes, that's when I'm going to sauce it to show you guys how to add that beautiful sauce. And even just a couple minutes on the grill, it will get sticky and caramelized and yummy, but without burning. So that's my trick. Don't put on these sticky sauces until the end if you're cooking on anything besides a Traeger. And even on a Traeger, I like to add it at the end. I just don't think you need to do it like the recipe is written. So that's my take on it, folks. Now let's talk about this incredible Santa Maria tri-tip. This, like I said, Tim Hollingsworth is one of, he is one of the best chefs in the world. What am I saying? I was going to say probably one of. No, he is one of the best chefs in the world. He won that show on Netflix that was just 1 year. It was called The Final Table. And there were 11 chefs from around the world, and they picked one more to add to their group of 12 to make it a group of 12. And he won it. He's just wildly talented. But the reason I love him so much is that he's so dang humble. And he'll cook for anybody, anytime, anything. He's the best. So hi, Tim. He and his wife have 4 kids too. And the things he makes for them, it just makes me smile so much. So this Santa Maria tri-tip, he grew up in California too, is very traditional, but it's got brown sugar, molasses, soy sauce, rice vinegar, and then a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, lots of garlic, 5 garlic cloves chopped up, then chili powder, ginger, black powder, the tri-tip, and a little water. Oh, that's so funny. You know what? You add the water at the end to use the marinade as a sauce. And so I'm not going to worry about that because I'm not going to cook off the marinade separately during class, but you can certainly do that if you want. So I like this recipe because I had never cooked tri-tip, believe it or not, until I started working with Traeger. I had never cooked a single tri-tip. I don't know why it intimidated me. I think it's just because the cut is like thicker on one side and a little thinner on the other. And so I wasn't sure if you're supposed to slow cook it, if it cooks forever or what. Well, I started testing some old recipes for Traeger, and one of the first ones I tested was tri-tip, and I fell in love. I think it's got the perfect ratio, I should say, of fat to meat. So it's super flavorful. The cut itself is 2 to 3 pounds typically, so it can feed a crowd. It's great to slice for sandwiches. It would keep really well to use for other things. It's just a really versatile cut. So Tim's recipe has me smoke it for 1 hour at the beginning. So I made the marinade, which literally you're not cooking anything. You just put all those ingredients in um, a bowl, and or in a glass dish would be the easiest thing, because then you can just pretend this is the dish. You make the marinade in here, whisk it up, and then you just put the tri-tip in it and you flip it so both sides are coated in the marinade, and let it sit for 1 to 2 hours before you put it on the grill to smoke for 1 hour at 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So I've already done that part. And the thing that's so cool about this, it's kind of like you're building layers of flavor, because the smoke will definitely impart a smokier flavor on the meat that many of us might not be used to if you haven't smoked before. If you don't have a smoker, we can talk about that too, because you can add wood chips. They sell great ways to turn your grill into a smoker now. There are little boxes, right? And you add wood chips to it and some water, and it's got perforations in the top, and it just creates a hot, smoky fire. So you can add that flavor. But the other thing I didn't realize is that tri-tip can cook really quickly. So he goes from giving it some smoke for an hour to then cranking it up to 450 and cooking it for 5 to 8 minutes per side after that. You're just cooking it up to medium rare or rare, and then you just let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes. So all we're going to do is put it back on the grill at 450, which I will crank this up to 450 as soon as the chicken comes off, and the tri-tip will come back out onto the grill, okay? And so let me show it to you now. It's been sitting back in its marinade. But smoking can give food like a beautiful kind of crust on it, and it's already got that a little bit. I'm gonna turn this down and show you all. So this is the tri-tip. It's like a triangle. Well, there's my timer again. And this is about a 3-pound one, like I said. So this is probably going to cook about 10 to 12 minutes longer. Let me move this again, and I'll take the chicken off the grill for us, okay? I'll sauce the chicken. That's what I meant to say. So I've got my barbecue sauce. I'm going to check the temperature of one more chicken breast. I might still be jumping the gun a little bit. We're going to find out. We're going to find out if I'm jumping the gun. 150, 151. They're looking really good. So if this one was like at 148, yeah, they probably need about 5 more minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and put the sauce on then. So notice I'm closing it every single time to keep that temperature up. So even though all I'm doing is taking this plastic off and getting my basting brush ready, if I wait, it probably would have dropped another 15 to 20 degrees. And every time that happens, it's going to take your food longer to cook, right? So that's another reason why you can't always trust the times, because the person writing the recipe doesn't know if you've been standing there with it open or closed or what you've been up to. So watch me work really quickly, friends. Just brushing the whole thing on the top and sides. It's going to be like a lacquer. Yum, 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 yum. This is going to be great. There we go. So they're coated on the top and sides, and it only dropped 50 degrees. So that's kind of impressive. Let me set this timer again for 5 minutes, and we're going to take them off one final time. We'll look at their internal temperature, and then we'll rest before we slice them. We'll let them rest so that those juices will be redistributed like we talked about. Okay, one interesting thing. I don't know if you can hear this, but the thing that happens so often, if you're cooking over a direct gas flame and you go to put sauce on something, those flames come up and the whole area up here catches on fire, right? That's why a lot of times you'll see people with a spray bottle or something to try to tamp that flame down. Fire also happens when there's grease around. So if you're working with a cut of meat that's really greasy and it keeps dropping down directly onto the flame, it's going to cause these flare-ups, right? That's not happening here. Like you hear a little bit of a sizzle, but since it's not dropping down onto a flame, the sizzle is just where it's hitting the flat piece of metal, right? So it's just safer and your food just turns out better. It's like a more consistent way to cook. So just be aware if you're cooking over gas in particular, sometimes charcoal that or wood, that if your food is dripping a lot of fat or sugary sauce into it, you might get those flare-ups. And that's a lot of times when you get your food tastes burnt. It either looks burnt or it gets like that kind of gas char on it where it's like a blackish layer that you don't want there. And then you taste it and it tastes a little bit like fuel. So you want to be really careful when you're saucing things and not to overdo it, because if it's dripping down in there, then it's just going to cause more flare-ups, okay? And then I see we have a question. Will the chicken continue to cook if you remove it from the grill now? It would, about 5 degrees. And with chicken breast, it seems to become dry when it reaches the higher temperature. Yes, if it gets up to 170, 175, it's definitely going to be too dry. These are really thick chicken breasts. And so I tend to pull things too quickly. I'm always jumping the gun. Like, is it done? Is it done? So I'm letting it go longer than I typically would. And then letting it rest is the key. If you open them up right at the beginning, when you take them off the grill, they're going to be dry no matter what. So I'm going to let them rest and be a patient person today, okay? I promise you that. And I might put a little bit more sauce on them while they rest, but we'll just take a look at them. Or you can always serve more sauce on the side. I'm going to kind of put them on foil to rest because the cutting board I have for them doesn't have a well around it. So as the juice comes off, it would just go falling off of the cutting board. And I don't want to do that out here since I'm working without a sink and we want to keep the bees away. I was going to say the birds and the bees. My favorite birds haven't been out here. There are a couple bluebirds that hang out and hummingbirds as well. And I just love them so much. It's trying to enjoy living out here in this beautiful woodsy area for as long as it lasts. Okay, I'm just wiping my hands so I don't scare anybody out there. Yeah, so will you tell me if it's Helena or Helena? I'm sorry. I'm going to go with Helena. But if you're taking them off at like 155, 160, you're probably in great shape, okay? Can you use smoked paprika instead of chili powder? We have people who have a difficult time with spice sometimes. You absolutely can, Lori. That's a great idea. And you know, the chili powder they sell in the store is so mild. Like you taste that it came from a chili, but there's no heat on it versus the chipotle even I have is spicy when it's concentrated into a dry spice. So you absolutely could use smoked paprika. That sounds delicious. And I would use smoked paprika in my barbecue sauce as well. So if you want to substitute anything in that sauce for smoked paprika, you certainly can, okay? And I just, to add another layer of flavor, added what Traeger calls their pork rub. I added it to the chicken. I don't follow rules in the kitchen. And it's like brown sugar, chili powder, garlic. It's something that I would love on chicken in general, especially with this sweet sauce. So I did that for a little bonus bit of flavor, okay? Let's see. Yes, 35 seconds left. Can she wait? Can she do it? Oh, you're sweet. You know what? When people have names like that, it's just frustrating, isn't it? When you're always having to tell people either way is fine. I threw an A at the end of my name, Helen, because my married name didn't sound friendly. Helen Chevalier versus Helen. I love it. Helena, I get it. That flows nicely. Chevalier is a pretty amazing last name. I get why you did that. I mean, wow. Okay, there's the timer. Let's stop and I'll take these off. Don't you love that I just sit on a stool while I cook here? It's easier to stay at camera level, but it feels rather indulgent. Woo! Gorgeous. 2, 3. This is going to be good. 4. I'm going to turn this up to 450 this very second. I'm also going to make sure that the pellets are still full. Yeah, I do this bad trick. I won't even show you what I just did because that's not a good, it's not a trick anybody should know about that I just did to move the pellets around. If I cut off my own finger, it's my own fault, right? Okay. 158, 159, this is perfect. The other way you can tell if it's juicy or dry is I know how to feel it. Sorry, I'm not showing you. So I'm just gonna wrap these a little bit loose like that. They don't really have to be tented, but like I said, I'm just trying to keep the juice from spilling out onto the cutting board. That's why I put them in the foil, so I could just put the rim up. Otherwise, I would just let them land on the cutting board. And the cutting board I'm using for the steak has a well. Okay, so that's why I'm using this cutting board for the chicken. Okay, so let's give those just a couple minutes to rest. And in the meantime, we're gonna fire up, fire up the grill for the tri-tip. Now, I am a person who rushes things. So if you wanted to just put the tri-tip on right now while you're waiting for the temperature to come up, it's certainly not the end of anything. It would be absolutely fine to do that. So I'm just going to clear a little bit more space off, and then we'll see what the temperature is, and I'll put it on, okay? Oh, and by the way, if you don't like curse words, then don't look. But my friend gave me a new one of my favorite oven mitts the other day, which makes me laugh so hard. And it goes with this one that I have. If you can read backwards. I love these oven mitts so much. I keep texting this company on or DMing them on Instagram. They're called Blue Q, and I think they're out of North Carolina. And Lori, I have the tea towels that say that already. So the fact my friend Karen gave me one, it makes me smile even more. She's like, you might have it. I'm like, no, it just coordinates with my other one. But this company, they get paid to make up funny things. They have a lot. They sell socks and tea towels and oven mitts and a couple of bags. And some of them are just like cute, funny sayings, but a lot of them are kind of smarmy, and I love it. Okay, so let's get this stuff out of here. And we'll have more space for the main events around here, folks. What's this? Oh, yeah, that's the meat for the next thing. That's the ground beef and lamb. Now, it's really cool, by the way, on my patio. Otherwise, I wouldn't have meat sitting out here, just so you know. It's probably 65, 70 in the shade here. So it's an okay temperature for meat to be sitting at right now. If it were 80, 85, I would be concerned. But because we're not in the sunlight and it's a cool, breezy day, I don't have to worry about it, okay? I'm just going to move all of my tools over here too. So we have more space for this amazing steak that's going to go on the grill soon, that we're going to wow everyone with, that you can do. The blunt card. No, tell me more. Do you show it to people? When somebody gave me a set of cards, and they look like business cards, and you hand them out, and it just says stop talking. I was like, ooh, that's a good one. But and it was intended for someone at our office who talked all the time, so it wasn't very nice, but we all thought it was hilarious. Okay, I'm gonna get this ready. So can you see the smoke coming up right now? That is because of fat that burned down, or sauce that burned down onto the grill grate. So this isn't something that is a good thing. Typically, white smoke is not how you want to cook. You want to cook when there's blue smoke. So white smoke is what happens when it's about between 100 and when the grill's heating up. So like 160 to 180-ish. A lot of times you'll see white smoke. That's the smoke that's coming up from burning off any other thing. But when it starts to burn at a higher temperature, when wood does, that smoke dissipates. So this is just taking care of some extra little crumbs on my grill, probably grease. And then, oh, look at this. And the grill is already up to temperature. So I'll be ready. Yep, it's not so bad. Or there's a piece of food stuck in there that should come out that's causing the smoke, right? So it's always a good thing to understand that you don't want a lot of that smoke. I think I'll do a little investigation as I put the steak on and see. Now, here's the trick. In the recipe, it tells you to save this marinade, and you're going to add water to it and reduce it down, cook it down so you can have it to glaze over the meat. I'm not going to do that part today for you here, but you could certainly do it if you want to. I've had this steak without boiling down the marinade, and it's still so delicious and flavorful. So on it goes. Where is that smoke coming from? Probably just all of it. Whoop! That's a heavy steak, folks. So 450. I'm going to do 5 minutes. I'm going to set it for 5 minutes at the beginning, okay? And then we'll flip it, and then we'll start looking at the temperature. 5 minutes. I'm also going to take the marinade inside right now and the extra barbecue sauce. Sugar attracts the bees, and I don't want bees flying around if we don't need to. So I'm going to get these 2 sugary substances out of here and refill my water glass. If anybody else needs to take a quick break, I will be back in approximately 2 to 3 minutes. If not, you may talk amongst yourselves, have some fun, just stare at the Traeger in the background, or check out the boxes of lights that I have yet to hang, and they've been sitting there for ages. Okay, I'll be right back. Let's see, can I open the door? It's quite a little setup I've got going here. A one-woman show. Okay, she's back. And it smells amazing out here. Oh, it's going to be good. Oh my gosh. One of my sons came over and he said, "Oh, I'm going to eat that whole thing. I'm not going to share any of it with my brother." I was like, actually, you are going to share it with your brother, but I can see why you're excited. Okay, I'm going to take, ooh, these chicken pieces are so delightful. There's a little bit of juice coming off of them, but oh, they look so good. So let's slice one. Ooh, there is enough juice down there that makes me really happy. Like you can tell that they're not too dry, right? So let me get one, and I'm going to put the rest out of the way. Which one do I want to slice? I feel like that one. Okay. And then do this. I'm going to kind of wrap these up. And again, I'll move the rest inside here in a second. But to show you how to slice it, let me move it closer to the camera. I'm moving it closer, but what I need to do actually is move the camera. Silly me. And now I've used 2 of these tongs, and I can't remember what's what, so we'll put those over there. This is so me. Okay. All right, here we go. So I have a slicing knife. You could certainly use a chef's knife, but I like slicing knives for this because it's a thinner blade. So it's a thinner blade this direction, right? And it's not so long top to bottom, which doesn't really matter because if you're doing vegetable chopping and chopping of big things where you need to get through taller things, it matters. But for slicing something that's smaller, it does not matter. What does matter is that you use long guided strokes with your hand instead of sawing the meat, okay? So instead of going through this, which is gonna basically make the meat kind of just tear apart, we're gonna just use as few slicing motions as possible. Oh my gosh, you guys, I just want to show you. I wish I had a camera that went zooming in on it. This is like the perfect chicken breast. And if you remember this, that it's 350 degrees for 25, 30 minutes for thick ones. But I pulled this at about 158, 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Let it sit, what was that, 5 minutes, right? And it's perfect. This is perfect if you want to grill some off, let it sit and chop it up and use it in sandwiches later in the week. I'm going to flip the steak. That's what that buzzer was for. So let's do that. Okay, we're going to pretend that these were my steak tongs. Ooh, wow. My gut's telling me this is going to take longer than I think because it's a 3-pound steak instead of a 2-pound steak. But we're going to find out. Okay, timer. And I know, is Father's Day next weekend already, you all? Is that possible? I know Traeger's having a sale where you can save up to $300 on a grill. That's why I was just thinking about that. But yeah, that's soon, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to try a bite of the chicken. Let's see. I usually have a thing against chicken breast that's boneless and skinless because I don't think it has much flavor. This is the best way to cook a chicken breast if you want flavor and you want a healthier option than skin on, bone in. It's absolutely delicious, totally juicy. It will not disappoint you. I'm going to have one more bite just because I can, and then I'll take the chicken in too and get that out of our way. So then we're just focused on the steak and the burgers, okay? It's the 18th. So does that make today the 10th? 11. Okay. Thank you, Chris. I'm glad you told me. Time just flies when you're having fun, I guess, right? Okay, I'm going to take all of this yummy chicken inside. Say goodbye, unless anybody has any other questions about it before I take it away. Are we good? Okay, another 60-second to 2-minute break. I'll be right back, okay? Wow. It's already back up to its temperature again. I'm just always impressed with that. Yep, back up to 450. 449. Nope, 450. There it went. The thing that's crazy is that it has technology where, like, when it drops, it signals. It's like a computer, which, by the way, it has an app so you can communicate with your phone as well. And it'll tell you if your pellets are running low or if you've got the instant read thermometer in it. It will let you know when your food's about to be done too. But it's so crazy that it knows to fire more pellets and send them through to keep the fire going. and that it's so accurate that it knows to stop, or it stops very close to the exact temperature you've got it set at. So it's literally holding steady at 450 right now. Sometimes it overshoots it a little bit, you know, by a few degrees, and then you'll see it drop. But it's pretty cool. Okay, so I think instead of bringing the burgers out, Chris, my Traeger is called the Ironwood 885. I think it might be called that because of square inches of food it can hold. Don't quote me on that, but it's the bigger of the two Ironwoods, and these are the Gen 1s, Generation 1. The Gen 2 of the Ironwood just came out. It's more expensive, and it's got a ton more technology in it. So I'm kind of the last to hop on the technology train when I'm cooking, but the new Timberlines and the new Ironwoods have incredible technology. The new Timberline even has an induction cooktop next to it if you want it, which is amazing. So you can be doing sauces or side dishes while the lid is down on other things, or you can fry in it, right? Like I know people who are like make smoked chicken wings and then they fry them there. It's just over the top. It's like an entire kitchen in one appliance. And so I love this little Gen 1 Traeger Ironwood. Well, there's nothing little about it. But when you put the second rack in, you wouldn't believe how much food you can cook on it. So we just took took one of these to the place where I cooked for so many people. And instead of cooking all of the meat there, I brought huge Dutch ovens of shredded chicken to heat up on these. And then we did tortillas on the Traeger flat rock. And then we had one grill just dedicated to 120 pieces of corn. And it worked out really well. So I'm a fan. We're going to look at the temperature of this steak. I do not think it's going to be ready, but you never know. I could be way off. Oh, here are the tongs. I go through 5 pairs of tongs, I swear. You notice how it stopped giving off white smoke? That's because whatever was burning on their grease, it is gone. Lori, I really love the flat rock. I'll tell you why I love it so much, because they're having a moment on TikTok too. So my kids were excited about it before I was. So I put it together and they were just like, this is the best thing. Okay, this needs more time. Yeah, I'm not surprised because it's so much bigger. Can you believe I just did that? Pull that piece off. It says it's only 104. So this is less than rare. And you can feel it when you push it in. It says 119 right there. Let's just check one other place. Yeah, it doesn't feel cooked. You have to push in harder. I'm sorry you guys couldn't see this, but it's beautiful. And it's got this beautiful, when you smoke things, if you're using cherry wood, I wish the light could show you how it's got this beautiful red lacquer to it. Back on it goes. Woo! Also, I know you can't do this on some grills. If you have a grill where it doesn't drip down directly onto the flames, you can put a piece of foil down so that it catches that grease, right? And it's easier to clean whatever piece of metal that is. That's what I do. They also sell aluminum liners for each grill size at Traeger, so that you it takes up the entire space of the grill, so you don't have to worry about fat dripping down onto the drip tray and then having to clean it so much. Okay, it's going to take probably more than 5 minutes. Let's just not be silly, Amanda. Let's set it for 7 and be rebellious, shall we? I'll put that back up there, and we can talk burgers. So I want to look at what I tell you to do with this burger recipe in terms of temperature, because oh, look at that. I love reading my own recipes and going, what did I tell you to do? Oh, it's because I was telling you to make this indoors, and we're going to do it here. Medium-high heat. We're going to cook these over like 400 then. Oh yeah, and it says alternatively, prepare a grill for cooking over medium-high heat. Lightly grease the grill, right? Place the burgers on the grill and cook. About 3 minutes per side for medium rare, or about 5 minutes per side for well done. and then transfer to rest for 5 minutes before serving. Okay, so we'll talk about these burgers before I shape them, because I think when it comes to grilling, a lot of people want to learn how to make a good burger, good chicken, maybe ribs, and a steak. And if you prefer vegetables, I get requests all the time to do corn. I get requests to do any vegetables I typically do inside that I've moved to my grill. So I do, those of you who know me know that I love roasted cauliflower or broccoli, where you just cut it up into florets and you put it on a sheet pan with a bunch of olive oil and spices and salt. Salt always, but I vary the spices a lot. Sometimes I just do olive oil, salt, and pepper, and I roast them in the oven at high temperature, 450 if possible, for 15 to 20 minutes, and they get crispy and caramelized and crunchy on the little outsides, and they're so good. So that's kind of my method for roasting all veggies. But I love these so much on there like that. And so those are the things that people ask me the most for. And so when we talk burgers, the thing that's interesting is that I'll be teaching you things you can learn about any kind of ground meat that you're using, okay? So first of all, fat, as we say in cooking, fat equals flavor, right? It also helps retain moisture. And so if you're going to cook something that is really lean, most things don't bind very well. They don't stay together very well. Like if you have ground white meat turkey or chicken, you'll notice if you try to shape it into a patty, it usually just falls apart, right? So our goal with cooking any ground meat is that we want it to be juicy. We want it to hold together in the shape of a burger. And we want it to be full of flavor. So I typically work on a couple things. I work on seasoning my meat well. And by seasoning, I just mean to make sure I have the right amount of salt in the meat. Because if you have a really great cut of meat, any type, it's going to taste delicious. And salt just brings out the flavor and everything. So one rule of thumb, and I'm on the slim side of salt use, and I think it's perfect. It's perfect for me. Because did you know that your palate can change? Like the more salt you eat, the more salt you need. So some people will go on like a salt rest period, salt detox, and then you kind of start over and you don't need as much. But I always add a teaspoon of kosher salt to every pound of meat that I am cooking, of ground meat, okay? Doesn't matter if it's beef, turkey, chicken, it's what I start with. And then I sprinkle it all over the meat, and I make sure that I'm mixing the meat. I usually do mix it with my hands, you guys, because I think it's the best tool. If that makes you say, ooh, I don't like it, you can certainly put on gloves as well, or just use a big spoon. It's just really hard to get things evenly distributed through ground beef without using your hands, right? You don't want big clumps of seasoning, or say you put herbs in them and they're all on one side. Like using a spoon is kind of tricky. So I rely on my hands a lot in the kitchen. So with the recipe today, I'm teaching you, it's 1.5 pounds. Let's look what I have to go back. This is an older recipe, but I love it. And I'm sharing this one because it says 1 pound ground lamb and 8 ounces ground pork. This was in my anti-inflammation cookbook, and I'm trying to get away with less salt. And a lot of times you can, because there's so many other flavors in it, right? So it's got this cumin and coriander, and you can cook some onion and put it in there. But this is if you're just feeling fancy, okay? I had a burger one time when I'll never forget the taste of it. It's what inspired me to make this recipe, and it was in Bend, Oregon. And I know the restaurant's no longer there because the chef left town. But I was sitting with Connor, who's almost 20, oh my God, on my lap. He was 3 months old. And I was trying to eat dinner in a restaurant there with my husband. And I took a bite of my dinner, and it like fell on his cute little head, and I felt so bad. However, the burger I never forgot. It was loaded with herbs and garlic. I think it had some capers in it. And I was like, this is the best darn thing I've ever had. And then I started realizing in so many cultures, like kebabs, kefta, they're usually ground meats loaded with other things that add so much flavor to the meat, and also can help stretch the meat, right? So if you're trying to bind something that falls apart easily, you can add egg. If you just don't have a lot of meat and you want it to go farther, you could add breadcrumbs, right? So this burger recipe is just a amalgamation. It's an amalgamation of things I love about burgers. What I'm going for here today, friends, is that to cook a good burger on the grill, they need to be evenly shaped. And I'm going to just teach you the little trick of indenting it in the middle, because you know, as meat cooks, it kind of puffs up and they dome up. So if you want them to be an even thickness, you can press a little hole in the middle, not all the way through, just an indentation with your thumb, and they will cook up to kind of be more even all the way across. The way I'm making these burgers are traditional burgers where you can have medium, medium rare, well done. So they're thicker. They're about like that, right? However, I love a good smashed burger. And when I say smashed burger, I'm kind of thinking of anything that's like made in a diner, right? Where it's really thin and it's cooked through, or at most fast food places. So, you know, they're not asking you at McDonald's or In-N-Out if you'd like it medium or medium rare. They're taking a portion of meat, smashing it down really flat and cooking it for like 1 minute per side and it's well done and it works. It's absolutely delicious. And so I'm not going for well done today, but if that's how you like them, go for it. And if you like well done, I would recommend doing them that way. I would make them really thin and cook them really quickly, because if you try to cook a thicker burger to well done, it's going to take more time and it dries out more and it's just not as appealing. So those are my thoughts on burger shape and cooking. So I have some ground meat already, and I'm going to wait to shape them until we're letting this other meat rest, because I don't want to do too many things at once and get distracted. I want to give this about 2 more minutes before I check it. I gave it 5, and I think we should give it a couple more, okay? And we'll take a look. Well, hello, Anita. Hello. I would say we're 3/4. Oh, yeah. Well, we're an hour and a half in. I was like, we're 3/4 done. We're maybe a little bit more than 3/4 done. We might wrap a couple minutes early, but I can't wait for you to go back and watch what we've done on the barbecue chicken, the Mexican street corn. We're finishing off cooking the tri-tip right now, and then we'll carve it, because that's a big part of the whole equation. And then we're putting the burgers on the grill. So I'm going to do a really quick check. The way I say I don't. Yeah, it needs, like it said, 114, 117. See how quickly I went in? That's when I allow it. Let's set a timer so we don't forget, and then I'll start shaping those burgers. Oh, I've given it another, no, let's set it for another 5. I know my family, and they're not going to want rare. Okay, so I have a cutting board here to land it on already, right? But what am I going to shape my burgers on so that there's not contamination? I have some more. Well, let's do this. Let's do foil. Oh, and I have a great tray over here that'll work. I forgot I had Traeger send me some of these trays. You can't really see the monogram on it. And I'm going to put this down. And then here's what I've done for the meat already. I have combined the ingredients well enough to be able to shape them. So I'll bring the meat in front of you and I'll show you what I'm working with, okay? And then I've got my wipes, I promise. Oh, you have to double the reverse sear time. Are you talking about on the tri-tip, Lori? I think it must be because I'm working with larger cuts sometimes than what the recipes call for, right? So it definitely takes more time. That's delicious. When Lori says reverse sear, what she's talking about is a really common term when you have a Traeger grill, because so many people use them to smoke food, right? That you're cooking at a low temperature first, and then you crank up the heat to get the sear on it. Excuse me 1 second. It's asking if I want to add a new cooking session. The answer is no. On the tri-tip. Yeah, okay, good. That's good to hear. Then I'm on the right track, right? Okay, so burger meat. I'm going to make just a couple burgers on here, and then I'm going to save the rest and turn it into skewers, because I'm remembering a recipe I had of my friends where she turned it into little kefta skewers, and then she served it with like a pomegranate relish. It was so delicious, and so I'm going to track that recipe down and do that later. So here I go. I've got some meat, and I like 4-ounce burgers. That's like a really typical serving. And to be honest, when they're talking about consumption of red meat, that is a full serving. I know a lot of us like to go double burger, but I've talked to some really interesting people in the aging space about this. Dr. Michael Roizen, who he's probably 75, and now he's dedicating all of his research to aging and all of the new technology to help us live longer. I should say longevity, right? And although I always talk about using grass-fed beef, and I spoke at a conference where I said how much meat I ate, and he was like, I will agree with you on everything, but he's like, I really don't think we should be eating red meat more than 1 to 2 times a month. And I was like, wow. So I'm just more aware than I used to be now. Let's put it that way. Yes, you can use the ground beef to make skewers. Isn't that fun? So I'm going to make a 4-ounce burger. Now I used half lamb and half ground beef today because I didn't, oh, I'm sorry. Now I can't move the camera with my hand, but I'll show you. They didn't have ground pork. I'm really picky about where I get my pork from. A lot of it, frankly, in the United States is not raised in a very clean environment, and in terms of the diet that they get. And our standards for raising pork are not so great. It's a lot harder. They need more space. They need good food. It's different than cattle ranching and other animals. And so if I can get really yummy pork and I know where it comes from and I know how it's been fed, I do it. I mean, a pork chop is maybe one of my 5 favorite foods on earth. So don't get me wrong. I'll eat. I order them all the time when I go out, but I'm just a bit more finicky at home. So, okay, about 4 ounces. You can just use your hands to shape it into a patty, and depending on how thick you want it, it will shrink up in size too. Okay, so this is a pretty darn thick burger. I'm going to flatten it out a little bit. It does not need to be perfectly round. Mine never are. I'm just working extra hard to impress you. And then, like I said, if you want to make sure it continues to be pretty flat, just take your thumb and put a little divot in the middle. Boop. Okay. I'm going to show you these before I put them on the grill too. Maybe I'll make Sunny a burger. My friend who lives down the street. She was just telling some other friends of ours last night. It's so fun because when Amanda does classes, I get to eat the food. That's probably closer to 3 ounces. I've made so many burgers in my life, friends, that I'm pretty sure if you weighed these, they'd be close to 4 ounces. Okay. I did not put as many herbs in as it calls for as well. And you can see why it calls for more. It's not evenly spread around the burger. Thank goodness I have my wipes here, folks. Here we go. Let's press stop. Wipe my hands. Let me cover this other meat so I can check the other meat. Okay, I'm going to cover the bowl, and I'll show you where I am with these burgers. I'm just being extra cautious today since I'm out here. Can you see those burgers? Okay. So I'm going to move them over to the side while I check on this beautiful tri-tip. Woo! Wow. I'm going to turn this down to about 400. Now let's show you. Check it out. Oh, gorgeous. Gorgeous color. It smells amazing. And so I'm going to look at the temp. I think it's better. I think it's close. Better under than over, right? It says it's 138, 137. That's pretty consistent. And that is, yeah, it's done. Towards this end, because it's smaller, it's always going to cook more. That's going to be more like medium well. But this looks phenomenal. It smells amazing. And I'm just going to tent this with foil. And we'll let it rest while I put the burgers on. And then we'll carve into it, okay? Let's do this. I'm going to come back up. I always think it's funny when I'm cooking for you and you can't see my face. I'm going to put the burgers on. It's dropping in temperature because I set the grill to 400 degrees now, right? I'm going to do one other thing, which I would normally recommend if you have a grilling tool. You can, a really fun way to clean the grill grates is to put half of a potato on it and use the potato as the part that you scrub the grill with, and it takes the other food off of it. I usually just use a grill brush while the grill is still hot, and so I wouldn't recommend doing this. I just want to wipe a little bit of the because the tri-tip is a little bit fattier than the burgers, and because it was marinated, I wanted to wipe a little bit of that off because I don't want the burgers to take on the flavor of the marinade from the tri-tip, right? But you don't have to worry from a germ perspective because it's all being cooked at a temperature that's high enough. So you don't have to worry about it. I just don't want to mix my flavors. So here we go. Let's put these two burgers on. I normally tell people to lightly grease whatever they're cooking with or the grill grates. Because I've used this so much and I've been cooking with it a lot, it's almost like the grill grates for me are kind of seasoned like a nonstick pan right now. So I'm not going to worry about it, okay? But I am going to set a timer and make sure I'm consistent. Whoop. And look at that. The grill is down to 400. It's like it knew. I'm going to set this timer for, let's say, 4 minutes. If I flip them late, it doesn't matter because, like I said, you don't even have to flip them if you don't want to. I just visually like the look of it flipped, right? So they're going to go 6 to 8 minutes total. And so I'm on the clock with that. What else can I get out of our way? That's the ground beef mixture. I'm going to take that inside while this rests. And then I'm going to bring out a plate to serve the burgers on or take a look at the burgers and slice the steak and put it on there. We'll also talk about the condiments that I recommend to go on these burgers, which if you just like a classic burger, ignore it, right? Just go cheese, ketchup. I mean, I'm a huge fan of a classic burger. Here's what I do. Ketchup, mayo, mustard, or like secret sauce with it all mixed together. Lettuce, cheddar cheese if I'm doing cheese. Sometimes tomato, sometimes not. Dill pickle. That's all I want. That is all I want on a burger. Or I'll do thinly sliced red onion too. But that's how I enjoy a good burger. And so this one is just fun because, like I said, it was more like kind of like a Middle Eastern kebab flavor profile. So I do pickled onions with it, and I did a herbed yogurt sauce on top. And for some reason, we just all fell in love with it. And my family continues to ask for these too, which I love so much because it's different than a regular burger. So let me get these two things inside, my friends, and I'll come back and flip these burgers, and we'll bring it on home, okay? She's back. I was not gone very long. And I have 1:13 to spare here on the clock. What is under there? Okay, I'm going to put my plate there so we're ready to go. And as soon as these burgers are done, I'll move the camera back down so we can slice the steak together. In the meantime, does anybody have any questions as we kind of finish up all of these recipes today? If you all have taken other classes from me, you know I love it when you make the recipes and you tag me on Instagram at Amanda Haas Cooks and you show me what you've made. I love to show off your food to the internet. It makes me so happy that you all get inspired to cook. So if you try it, let me know, okay? It makes me really happy. I'm just closing the recipe so I can get more space here. I'm trying to think of the other things I just want you to take away from this class. You know, we talked a lot about time versus temperature and making sure that the internal temperature of your food is what you're depending on instead of just going on time. There's so many variables in when you're cooking, whether it's the temperature inside your grill or oven, whether it's the cut of the meat, you know, if you get a really lean cut of meat versus something with more fat. As my friend Chad likes to say, he's a barbecue expert, you know, every animal is different. What they eat affects their structure. And so it really does affect the cook time on everything for you as well. I'm going to flip these burgers. There you go. Ooh, they look really juicy, which I like. I'm going to set this for another 2 minutes, and then we'll check their temperature. As you do things like burgers, you'll get more comfortable just checking to see if it feels done in the middle by pressing on it. With burgers, if you press and it kind of just like gives away, you know it's not done enough. It needs to feel a little bit firmer than that, right? So when 2 more minutes are up, I'm going to do that little check, and then we're going to take it from there, okay? As I was saying, internal temperature, super important. And don't just look at the time of things, right? And having a good instant read thermometer to see what the temperature is inside, and making sure that you're inserting the instant read thermometer horizontally, because if you just go straight down, you're probably getting closer to the top, and you want the reading in the middle of the meat away from any bones if you're using something with bones, okay? The other thing is let your food rest. Let any meat you make rest before you slice it, okay? That will improve your game by so much, which means you're usually taking it off the grill a little bit earlier than expected, because you want to take it off about 5 to 10 degrees before it's finished cooking, because it'll carry over and keep cooking. Whew. Guys, this looks amazing. I keep forgetting I need to move the camera for you. Hold on. You're going to get this shot in just a second, and we're going to slice it up. Thank you for your patience with this. Okay, here it is. Let's get these wet ones out of this shot. It's too beautiful. Okay, so here's this beautiful tri-tip, and I'm going to speak to this instead of pushing it up to the camera, because I don't want to lose it, okay? But when you go to carve meat, it's really important to carve it against the grain. So you can see the muscle fibers going in this direction. If you slice it in that direction, it's going to be chewy. If you slice it across it, it will be more tender, okay? There are cuts of meat where their grain runs in kind of funny ways. And so I'm talking about, in general, being able to slice the bigger pieces against the grain. It'll be a lot, much tastier. Before I slice, let's look at a burger. I'm just going to look at its temperature. It sounds like I'm talking to a patient. 111. Nope, it needs a couple more minutes. All right. So I'll carve this for a couple minutes while we wait for that. So another thing is, don't be afraid to kind of, you know, use your hands as you need to steady the meat. You can certainly use tongs. And when I'm trying to be polite in front of a class, I do that. But you want to be really certain that you're steadying yourself well, right? So I usually like to carve things in the kitchen where no one else is watching me. Anyhow, I can see this grain coming down this way, right? So this is the end that's going to be more well done, because it's the end and it's thinner. But again, I'm just trying to carve through this meat. And because this is such a large piece, you could probably let it rest even longer. So I won't carve all of it yet, but I want you all to see it. Oh my goodness. The juice factor and the color of the meat is spectacular. Can you see how juicy it is? You guys, this is amazing. So it's fun because like on a cut like this, you're going from like well done to medium well to right about here. We're going to get into the medium to medium rare, right? And it's going to be absolutely delectable. Sharp knives matter because it will keep you from having to saw through your meat too much. I need to get my knife sharpened. But look at this beautiful meat. And I'm going to show you a smoke ring if you've never seen one. When you smoke your meat, the wood is infused into it. And can you see that ring around it, that pink ring right there? That's the smoke. If you were in a competition, that's a big deal. In a barbecue competition, I think I would pass. I probably wouldn't win, but I would pass. Mm. Mm. It's absolutely delicious. And I like the marinade so much. The flavor of it, it's sweet. It's got depth to it. I'm probably going to go in and reduce the marinade with some water, like they say to, so we can drizzle it over it. And I'm going to take the remaining juices from the steak and pour it in with that after I carve it. So good. Okay, let's get the burgers. Now I'm guessing let's see, they might still be a little bit underdone. Let's take a look. No, 148, 149. So, yep, and 142, 143. So these are like medium rare. They're not rare, they're medium rare. And so I'm going to let those sit before I slice into one to show you as well, okay? And in the meantime, I'm going to ask you if I can answer any questions for you. Anyone? I just put that on shutdown cycle. So it shuts down slowly, which makes it a lot easier to heat up and much easier to clean later too. So anyhow, I'm going to let that do its thing. Any questions? You can always come back and watch this class, which is so great. So there will be a link. How do you keep the chicken warm while cooking the meat? So if you wanted to keep the chicken warm and you had a separate place to do that, a couple things. If you were cooking, if you're saying you'd be cooking both of these things at the same time, because I'm currently not worrying about keeping the chicken warm, right? But I would just put them in an oven probably at like 185 or 175 to keep warm. Or I would just keep it on the counter tented with foil, because a lot of meat you may not realize, but when you go to eat it, you're kind of eating it at room temperature. And I'm okay with that. When it's cold, it's dry. When it's at room temperature, it's not. And so unless I'm serving like, I'm trying to think of chicken that I wouldn't want at room temp. Like if the chicken I just served, the barbecue chicken, when you have other warm dishes with it, it's absolutely delicious at room temperature. I don't want to dry it out. If I were trying to serve both of these things at the same time, I probably would have done the reverse. I would have cooked this through first and reverse seared it and cut the temperature a little bit earlier, like 10 degrees before it's done cooking, while I put the chicken breasts on, right? Because this is a more forgiving piece with some fat in it than a boneless, skinless chicken breast. So I would just do those chicken breasts at the end. Okay, let's see the other questions. What is the temp for medium well? And then what are your favorite wood pellets? I have been using the Signature that I can bake also. I'm too lazy to change out the pellets. Is that you, Lori? That is so funny. I talk about pellets all the time and I say the same thing. I'm currently using Signature today. Is it a mix of cherry and oak? Lori, I can't even remember. You guys, I don't change my pellets like so many, I call them pellet heads, do, where they're changing the flavor of wood every time they're cooking. I like to cook with types of wood that are neutral enough to work very well with anything from sweets to savory. And so I think the Signature blend is a great one. And for baking as well, it's got cherry in it, which is great. I also use apple a lot because I think apple works with everything too. So when I cook Thanksgiving and I do the whole meal on the Traeger, I've designed recipes of like, or menus of 14, 15 recipes, and they were all cooked on apple. So that's my preference. And then what is the temp for medium well? Let's see if I can figure this out. I just know what I like, right? I think 125 is medium rare, and then you get to 130, 135. Wait, 125 is rare. 130, 135 is medium rare. You get into the 140s, medium. 155 ish, 150 to 160 is probably medium well. And then 160 and over for a burger is well done. Okay. You can go back and check my science on that, Mark. I'm honestly so I forget about temperature when I'm thinking about like a burger, because I know what I know I wanted it like 125, 130 to be juicy and pink in the middle when I take it off the grill and let it rest. Let me move this camera down again. Oh my gosh. It is juicy, 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 juicy. It's pinker than it looks on the camera, which is funny, but it's absolutely, oh my gosh. And the other one, which is a little thicker, I'll show you that one too. You guys, the herbs are a game changer. Pow, they're so good. And I did go a little light on salt. I would add more salt. I used more meat, now that I think about it, than I thought I was going to use. So that's why I needed more salt. So I stand by my 1 teaspoon per pound. It is the same for steak or tri-tip. If you're wanting medium rare, or if you want medium well, I would pull your steak at like 150, 155, okay? And then let it rest. What other questions? I'm just going to sit here and carve some more tri-tip for my darling family who will enjoy this later. I'm home alone with this thing. That's dangerous. Questions, comments? Oh, I have to show you guys this. Not to be weird, but I'm very proud. And again, I don't know if you can see how perfectly cooked that is. Oh, it's really hard to tell with the light, but it's perfectly juicy and pink. And just like I want it, you guys. Anything else? I just want to thank you all for spending your afternoon with me. And if you have questions, of course, go back, rewatch it. I think what we're going to do for this class is keep this link public to you all. So if you want to come back and watch it, just check the email with the link. Use the link how you got here to Crowdcast, right? And you'll be able to sign in anytime on Crowdcast to watch it there. Recommended wine. Well, I would recommend something different for every single one of these things I'm eating. With the tri-tip, I'd probably go heavy, bold, red. With the lamb burger, you could probably do something like a Zin. A Zinfandel would be really nice. Or, yeah, I'm going to stick to a Zinfandel, actually, if you like them. And a Pinot would be interesting with those as well. With chicken, I could go either direction. Sauvignon Blanc, I could go Pinot Noir. And with the corn, Cerveza. I don't drink alcohol anymore, but there's a non-alcoholic beer my friend wants me to try, and I love the taste of beer with spicy foods, and I just think Mexican food, I think beer. So I used to love Mexican beer, so that would be a fun thing. Or margarita. Everyone, thank you for hanging out. I always have such a great time with all of you, and it's such a pleasure to teach all of you. I have some very exciting news coming in the next couple of weeks that I cannot wait to share with all of you. It's going to be a game changer for my business around here. And yeah, so stay tuned. And thank you so much, everybody. See you soon. Bye, Anita. Bye, Lori. Bye, Helena, or Helen, or Helena. Thanks, everyone. See you.